So Moses went back to Yahweh and said, oh, what a great sin these people have committed. Right? It's after he saw them perving out because they wouldn't wait for Moses to return. Got impatient. They've made themselves gods of gold. But now please forgive their sin. But if not, then blot me out of the book you have written. Yahweh replied to Moses, whoever has sinned against me, I will blot out of my book. Now go, lead the people to the place I spoke of, and my angel will go before you. You can see that right here. Look, the angel of me will go before your face. However, when the time comes for me to punish, I will punish them for their sin, which we know from Exodus 23, he had to do through the angel. He said, I will not pardon you if you don't listen. Verse 35, and Yahweh struck the people with a plague because of what they did with the calf Aaron had made. Chapter 33, verse 1, then Yahweh said to Moses, leave this place, you and the people you brought up out of Egypt, and go up to the land I promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I will give it to your descendants. I will send an angel before you and drive out the Canaanites, Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. So once again, and we can see that here in the Greek, this being the translation of the Hebrew in the NIV, Tanangalamu pra prosopusu, my angel before your face. So there's no question, right? I mean, there's no question who's being sent with the Israelites, who's involved with them. It repeatedly states it's his angel. In the Greek, my angel. Okay, let's jump to verse 9. Skip some intervening material. It's not directly related. As Moses went into the tent, the pillar of cloud would come down and stay at the entrance while Yahweh spoke with Moses. Whenever the people saw the pillar of cloud standing at the entrance to the tent, they all stood and worshipped, each at the entrance to their tent. Yahweh would speak to Moses face to face, as one speaks to a friend. Then Moses would return to the camp, but his young aide, Joshua son of Nun, did not leave the tent. Now again, right there, we already read how this works, right? The angel's voice is what we hear, but it's Yahweh speaking his words through the angel. So we have that here with this cloud, right? So it's still Yahweh speaking directly to Moses through the angel. We know that because, as we read earlier, we're going to get to this part a little bit more because this cloud comes back. But let's just take a look at it real quickly now. We go to Exodus 14. Bring up the NWT real quick and do a search, so make it a little faster. Where we read earlier, about the angel being in the cloud that came behind the people. Right here, 14:19. We read this in our prior show, last week's show, right? Exodus 14:19. Then the angel of God, who had been traveling in front of Israel's army, withdrew and went behind them. The pillar of cloud also moved in front and stood behind them, right? Because the angel's in the cloud. It's the angel that God is using to lead the people. It's the angel God is using to speak to the people. It's very important you understand this because, again, this is where Trinitarians basically collapse. They can't really put this all together in a way like the Bible presents and not, run to this later doctrine as a solution to how these angels can talk like this. Well, it's real simple. They're speaking Yahweh's words, right? That means they are God to us. The angel tells Moses that's what that means. It doesn't mean they're God. Doesn't make them a person of the Trinity. No. So let's now look at Exodus 33. We're getting close to the end, everybody. Thank you for joining me. We'll partake in just a moment to wrap things up. A couple more texts, though. Exodus 33:18, right? Remember I said we'd get to this. We talked about before how we know you can't see God. You're never seeing God. You're never hearing the Father either. It's clear from Exodus 23, but also from John 6, where Jesus says, no man has heard the Father's voice or seen him. No one has seen God even, right? So these are angels. They're not God. They're speaking for God. That's what they do. They're created spirits. We read this earlier. Psalm 104, Hebrews 1. Exodus 33:18. Then Moses said, now show me your glory. Verse 19. And Yahweh said, I will cause all my goodness to pass in front of you, and I will proclaim my name, Yahweh, in your presence. I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. Verse 20, but he said, you cannot see my face, for no one may see me and live. So they're never seen him, no matter what it says. When it says God appeared, no, it's an angel. That's why we're doing this study. It should have been clear to everybody. We thought it was, but we didn't realize how far depraved the Trinitarians are in terms of their attempts to read their doctrine back in these texts. I mean, it's always kind of been there in some way, but we didn't think they took it as seriously today, but they do, because in spite of criticizing us for claiming Jesus as an angel, the archangel, right, misusing Hebrews against our view, they believe he's an angel. And they believe he's a special kind of angel the Bible doesn't teach about or talk about or even know about, right? And they worship it. Right? They're angel worshipers. There's no doubt about it. You can't see God. You can't see Yahweh, right? This doesn't say the Father. It's Yahweh. Trinitarians. You just divide up Yahweh later into multiple persons to fit your doctrine. No, that's not what the Bible does. We have Yahweh and his angels. Angels are created spirits. His spirits, his angels are made spirits, right? Flames of fire. No, they're servants. All of them. You can't see Yahweh. You have to look at his angel. You have to see the Son. That's why John 1 says it's the only begotten God who has explained him, right? Because he's not Yahweh. He's not the Father. No Trinity. No one may see me and live. 21, Yahweh said, there is a place near me where you may stand on a rock. When my glory passes by, I will put you in a cleft in the rock and cover you with my hand until I have passed by. Then I will remove my hand and you will see my back, but my face must not be seen. So that's never happening, okay? Like when in Judges 13, the angel of Yahweh ascends in a flame of fire, and they say it's a God we have seen. Right, it has to be a God, because again, no one has seen God at any time. And they're looking directly at that angel in a flame of fire, and he's not concealing his face. Well, if that were God, Yahweh, this is what they would have had to have done. So, no. God's face cannot be seen ever. So any of these beings, any of these angels, the Son of God, any of them who we're looking at and whose face we see in any kind of manifestation of glory, that's not God. That's God representing himself through that angelic being. Now here may be the only time where there's an exception that God actually is manifesting directly, but taking obviously special precautions nowhere else ever done, because he knows Moses by name, he says in this account, very close obviously, beyond what we could even appreciate from these records. But he goes through these special precautions to protect Moses with his own hand, right? He only lets him see part of him from behind. So this never happens anywhere else. That's why none of the other accounts anywhere else are what this is. Chapter 34, verse 1, Yahweh said to Moses, chisel out 2 stone tablets like the first. I'll write on them the words that were on the first, which you broke. And he saw him perving out. Be ready in the morning, then come on to Mount Sinai, present yourself to me there on top of the mountain. No one is to come with you or be seen anywhere on the mountain. Not even flocks, herds may graze in front of the mountain. So Moses chiseled out 2 stone tablets like the first, went up early to Sinai. Yahweh commanded him. As Yahweh commanded him, he carried the stone tablets in his hand. Let's read a couple more verses. The Yahweh came down in a cloud and stood there with him and proclaimed his name, Yahweh. And he passed in front of Moses, proclaiming the Lord, the Yahweh, Yahweh, the compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, abundant in love and faithfulness. Now, this isn't the Father's voice. No one has heard God's voice. It's the angel. But whether or not it's God allowing his glory to be seen partially by Moses is the only possibility we have here, right? Because as we know, right, in the New Testament, Jesus makes it plain. There are a couple texts I think make this clear, but the most clear is right here in John 6. This is one, right? John 5:37. Also the Father who sent me has himself borne witness about me. You've neither heard his voice at any time nor seen his figure. So sometimes Trinitarians will try to limit that to you, but I don't think that's a necessary conclusion. And either way, we have other accounts. John 6:45. It's from the NWT. Let's just go to it in the Bible Hub real quickly. John 6:45. Just so there's no question about it. It is written in the prophets, they will all be taught by God, right? Morally bankrupt representation for a text that's quoted that contains the divine name in the original quoted material. Everyone who has heard the Father and learned comes to me. Right now, notice this is very important. See, he quotes an Old Testament text that uses the divine name, right? The NWT is correct to use it here. They'll be taught by God, right? You know how like Moses was taught by God right there in that account we're reading. Exodus 33, 34, we'll go back to it. But it's not him, right? It's the angel. It's the angel's voice, it's God speaking through him. Right? Look at how Jesus here applies the quotation from the Old Testament. They'll be taught by God. And what is he? He applies that to the Father, heard the Father. They'll be taught by God because everyone who has heard the Father and learned from him comes to me. All those hearing from the Father and learning, mathon, from where we get the word mathetes, disciple, student, comes toward me. Being taught by God, which is a quotation with the divine name Yahweh, Jesus says is being taught by the Father and learning. That's what that is, he says. Being taught by God means hearing from the Father and learning from him. But now look at what? Look at the next verse. No one has seen the Father except the one who is from God. So whether, we already read earlier in John 5 that no one has heard the Father's voice, and whether or not that's contextual limit or not, the fact is in Exodus 23, it's the angel's voice that God's speaking through. It's not God's voice. It explicitly makes that differentiation. And then it says explicitly, no one has seen the Father. Well, the only one no one has seen in the Old Testament is YHWH, the one who had to hide Moses behind a rock in his hand and just let him see part of his glory. Everyone's seen these angels, the angel of the Lord, all of them. So it's very clear the Father is YHWH. He even makes that point right here. He also identifies him as God, right? No one has seen the Father except the one who is from God. That's the same as John 1:18. That's because God is the Father. One God, the Father. Only begotten God is the one who explains him. That's not the one God. That's not the Father. But this quote right here, right, he's saying the Father is YHWH you learn from. You learn from him and then you come to me. Right, because no one can see God. See, you're taught by God, you're taught by YHWH, but you're not really taught by him directly because you can't see him. And if you can't see him, you're not hearing him. You're hearing who you're seeing, like Exodus 23 taught us, the angel who's speaking YHWH's words.